Welcome everybody, welcome. Starting lying down this evening. Nice gentle start to the class. So as I just said, if you didn't catch that, we're going to start lying on our backs, just with the soles of the feet together and the knees coming out to the side. And we can either have our hands on our belly or down by our side, palms facing up. Can be quite nice to open up the chest. Or on the belly for a bit more of a grounding feeling. If you want to feel a bit more comforted, it's quite nice to have the hands on the belly. And if it is a bit intense on your hips to have the legs open like this, we can always support with the cushions or throws underneath the legs. But again, it can be quite nice just to let the weight of the legs just start to open up the hips. And just settling in once we're there. Maybe closing down the eyes and bringing your attention inwards. So by saying that, we just mean just noticing how your body's feeling, noticing how your mind is feeling, noticing your breathing, just bringing your attention to you. Trying to release any thoughts of the day or any plans for the weekend. Just bringing your focus to the present moment. So today we are going to be working around the hip area. We haven't done a hip class for a while, and it's a really good area to work on. Most of us do tend to have tight hips in one way or another. So really nice to open up the hips. And when we open up the hips, it's not just the front of the hips, we can work on the side, the back, all around that hip area. And we do spend a lot of time in our lives sat down, being at a desk or a computer or in a car, at a table. So it's quite nice to get away from that position and open up the hips in other ways. So focusing on the hips today, as always, being mindful of your movement, being mindful of how your hips are feeling, not pushing anything, and remembering that your hips, quite often we have uneven hips. So one hip might feel very different to the other when we do different sides. So just being accepting of that, not pushing it. And maybe taking a couple of nice deep breaths here. So really filling up the lungs. Nice big inhale and nice long exhale. Maybe sighing out your exhale. Especially if you're on your own, or even if you're not, just make the breathing really loud, like really kind of sigh it out, let all the air out on your exhale. It can feel really releasing just to let it all go. Taking a couple more nice big deep breaths. And then letting your breath return to normal. Bringing the hands just underneath the thighs. We're going to bring the knees together. So just help your legs up with your hands so you're not putting too much strain on your legs. Let's bring the feet wide and just windscreen wipe the legs just from side to side. So just getting some movement in the hips. Okay, we're going to squeeze the knees into the chest. So hug the knees in and then just bring the head up to meet the knees. So curling yourself into a little ball, bringing your nose to touch your knees if you can. And then letting your head rest back down on the mat. We'll bring the left foot flat to the mat, so keeping that left knee bent. Squeezing the right knee into the chest, so just straight into the chest to begin with. Trying to release any tension around the right hip. And then slowly let's bring the knee kind of out to the side. So kind of bringing the knee more towards the armpit. The left hand can just come and rest on the left hip. And then let's start to take some big circles with that right knee with your right hand. So just bringing the knee down and round. And then releasing the knee with the hand, just letting the leg take the circles, and then maybe extending the leg out towards the end of the mat. It's a bit like you're doing breaststroke with one leg. And then we can maybe start to straighten the leg into our circles. So bringing the leg up as straight as you can, still circling out to the side, keeping our hips grounded into the floor, not letting that lift hip rise. Good. And then bending that right knee back into the chest. We're going to take the right ankle, cross it over the left thigh. So coming into our figure 4 stretch. Just make sure these right toes are active, this right foot is active, so the toes are pulling back towards the knee. And then we can maybe lift up that left leg from the mat. Looping the hands behind the left thigh, if that is available to you. And slowly stretching into that right hip. So we want to be encouraging the right knee away from us as we bring the right ankle towards us. Breathing here. And releasing, letting the left foot come down to the mat. Bringing the right foot down to the mat, and we'll do all that on the left side. So squeezing, keeping the right foot flat on the mat, so keeping that leg bent in. We'll squeeze the left knee into the chest. And then taking the left knee with the left hand, just bringing the knee out to the side, so kind of up towards the armpit. And we can just bring the right hand down to the right hip here. And then let's start to take some circles with that left knee. So just slow, deliberate circles. Making the circles bigger and bigger, and eventually just releasing the grip of the hand on the knee. And let's start to straighten out the leg. I'm kicking my blocks out of the way. Straighten out the leg all the way down to the end of the mat. So nice big wide circles. And then maybe starting to keep that leg straight as we bring it up. So like a full leg circle. Keeping the hips grounded here, so you'll feel this is starting to work your core area. So quite strong through the stomach. Good. Okay, bending the knee back into the chest, squeezing it in. And then bringing the left ankle over the right thigh, activating that left foot. And bringing that right leg in towards you, looping the hands behind the knee, behind the thigh if you can. If that's not available, we can just leave that right leg down on the floor and just encourage that left knee away from us with our left hand. So just have a bit of a play around, see what works for you. Wherever you are, remembering to breathe. Good, okay, lowering your right leg down, lowering your left leg down, keeping our feet hip distance apart, knees hip distance apart. We'll take a couple of bridges, so starting to open up the front of our hips. So let's peel our pelvis up off the floor, lifting up the hips nice and high, and let's pause up in our bridge. So we're just up on our shoulders, hands down by the sides. So we're engaging our legs here as well, engaging our glutes, opening up the front of the body and lowering down. Let's try and lower down nice and slowly. And again, peeling up off the floor. Stretching out the front line of the body, maybe lifting the hips a little bit higher if that's available. Breathing. And then lowering down. Good. Squeezing the knees back into the chest. We're going to make our way up to seated so we can rock and roll our way up to top of the mat, or we can come onto our side and use our hands to help push us up. Wherever you are, finding a nice tall spine. Lengthening up through the crown of the head, grounding down through the sit bones. Just resting your hands on your knee in your lap and starting to release around the hips. Remember, you can always sit on some support if you need. Let's just take some shoulder rolls, so just loosening up the shoulder area. Taking some circles in both directions. And then maybe one, then the other. Good, letting the shoulders melt back and down. We're going to come into our little forward fold here. So folding from the hips, just slowly bring yourself down so your hands can touch the floor in front of you. And then maybe just creep the hands a little bit further forward. Just finding your stretch, finding where you can kind of get into the back of the hips. The lower back here is the area we're aiming for. So trying to keep the spine tall. So rather than curving the spine, leading with the chest. And then we'll take a little walk over to one side with your hands. And again, just have a little bit of a play around here. You can kind of play around with like a little bit of a twist. Kind of moving your hands around and just see how that feels on the opposite hip. So little gentle movements. And then coming back over to the other side. Remembering to keep both sit bones on the floor. So if that sit bone's lifting a little bit, just come back out of the move slightly. Coming back to center, crossing the legs the other way. So bringing the other leg in. The other leg in first, so not the way you would automatically sit, the other way, and we'll do the same again. So folding from the hips, keeping the sit bones grounded, bringing the hands just in front of you. It might feel very different on this side. Just breathing into the stretch, breathing into any tension, seeing if you can release with your exhales. And then walking over to one side, it doesn't matter which side we do first. And again, just having a bit of a play around with your position here. Coming into more of a twist or even into more of a side stretch. Just kind of working out what works for you to get that stretch in the opposite hip. And coming over to the other side. And then coming back to center. We're going to extend out the leg that's kind of on top, just keeping the other leg bent in. It doesn't matter again which leg. So kind of coming out at diagonal with one leg and the other leg bent in like you're about to sit cross-legged. So just pulling those toes back towards you with that extended leg. And again, just coming into a bit of a forward fold here. So we're going to get more of a stretch along the underside of this leg, so maybe into the hamstrings, the back of the knee. It doesn't matter how far down you come. Remember, if even just sitting like this is enough, then absolutely fine. And remember, you can always bend that knee as well. That's absolutely fine. So as always, just having a little bit of a move, just finding your stretch. We're all different. We all find stretches in different ways. So don't be afraid to have a little bit of a play around when we're doing yoga. It's always nice to find your position. And then lifting yourself up, we'll bring that leg, the other leg out, the straight leg in, coming into the other side. Just bringing the bent leg in nice and close, remembering to keep that straight leg engaged, keep the toes pulling back towards you. And again, just slowly coming forward, just finding your stretch. And breathing into it. Good. Bringing yourself back up. We're going to come through into hands and knees, so just maybe swinging that leg round, rolling yourself over, coming onto all fours, spreading the hands out nice and wide, making sure our feet and knees are hip distance apart. We'll come straight into our cat-cows. So on an inhale, looking forward, belly dips down, and on an exhale, curving the spine up. Mindfully moving through our cat-cows. So nice, slow, mindful movements, trying to feel each part of our spine move. You'll notice I do this move in every class, like I do the bridge as well. So good for your spine to keep it moving like this. And hopefully the more we do, the kind of bendier your spine will feel. You'll feel a bit more space, a bit more strength. Inhaling to come forward and exhaling to push up. Okay, finishing off the round you are on, and we will meet in our neutral spine, so flat back. Taking your gaze just towards the front end of your mat, so keeping a nice length in the back of the neck rather than kind of looking forward. We'll extend out the left leg, tucking the toes under, pushing back through the back heel. And then just lifting the leg up to hip height, keeping our core engaged. And then we're going to bend the knee out to the side and just start to take some big circles with that left knee again, like we did when we were lying down. Trying not to lean into the right side of the body here. So watch your right elbow isn't collapsing. So keeping strong through the core. Taking some circles the other way. And then extending that leg back again, just resting it on the floor for a moment. And then lifting it back up to hip height. We're going to bring that left knee to touch the left elbow. So squeezing that knee in, touch the left elbow, extend out to the back. Now we're going to bring the knee in to touch the right elbow. So we're going to cross the knee in front of our body, try and touch that right elbow, extend out to the back. Don't worry if you don't quite meet the elbow. And again, to the left elbow, extend out. Right elbow, extend out. One more time, each elbow to the left and to the right. Extend out, keep it up at hip height, staying strong through the core. We're now going to raise the right hand to reach out in front of us. So left leg, right hand, strong, stable core. And then lowering everything back down to your sit. Okay, same on the other side. Extending out our right leg. Taking a moment just to stretch out through the back of the heel, just opening up through the back of the knee. And then slowly lifting up that leg just to hip height, keeping the toes pointing down towards the floor. And then let's start to take some nice big circles. So bringing the knee nice and wide. And then taking some circles the other way, not dipping into that left elbow like I was just doing. Keeping your core nice and strong. Okay, stretching out the leg behind you again. Having a little rest down on the floor. And then again, lifting it up. Bringing the right knee to the right elbow. Extend back out. Try and bring the knee across to touch the left elbow, extend back out, and right. Extend to the left, extend. One more time, each side to the right, and to the left. Good. Keeping that leg extended, toes pointed down towards the floor. Let's bring our left arm up to meet it. So trying to find a straight line all the way from your left fingertips, through your arm, through your back, down the right leg, all the way back out through the right heel. Good. Okay, lowering down to the mat. Okay, we're going to drop down onto our elbows. So bring your left elbow down where your left hand was. And same on the right hand side. We're going to clasp the hands together. So making a little triangle with our forearms. One by one, let's extend out the legs to the end of the mat. We're going to come into our forearm plank. So just lowering the hips down, trying to make a straight line with your body, feet hip distance apart, strong through the shoulders, strong through the core here. Breathing. And then let's lower the knees down, untuck the toes. We're just going to lower the hips down onto the mat. So we're just coming into a little mini sphinx here, keeping the hands clasped in front of us. So here we just want to release the lower back. So usually we would have quite firm legs in a back bend. We're just going to jiggle the hips from side to side this time. Let the legs be kind of floppy as well. We're not doing too much back work today. So just releasing into the lower back. Gently loosening the muscles around there. Not sinking into our shoulders though. We still want to rise up through our shoulders. So pressing down with your forearms. Good. Okay. We're going to come back up onto our knees and then bring our knees a little bit forward so that underneath our hips again. So kind of back into our tabletop position on the bottom half of our body. We're going to tuck the toes under. We're going to come up into our dolphin pose, which I don't think we've done before. So we're going to keep our forearms on the ground, hands clasped in front of us, tucking the toes under. We're going to lift the hips up, so into our downward dog legs, but with our forearms on the floor. Quite a strong pose this. So it's okay just to paddle out the legs. Don't worry about the legs being straight. See if you can really push down through the forearms, lift the hips up nice and high. And melt the chest kind of towards the knees. So really opening up through the armpits, strong through the shoulders. Good, okay, everyone bring the knees back down, bring the knees nice and wide, toes together, sink the hips down, finding your child's pose. So letting the arms just relax, letting the shoulders relax, letting the head sink down. And breathing here. This is a great pose to get into the hips, as child's pose. Even if you have your legs, your knees together, knees apart, it really doesn't matter. It's a great hip opener. So just trying to release any tension you might feel around the hips, around the lower back, really sinking the hips back and down towards the heels. Okay, everyone bringing their head up. We'll bring our hands back to shoulder distance apart. Let's come back up to all fours, tucking the toes under, bringing our feet hip distance apart, lifting up the hips nice and slowly. Let's meet in our downward facing dog. And again, once you are here, you can just paddle out the legs, taking any movements you need to. Trying to keep the arms straight and strong, broadening across the shoulders, pushing down with all of your hand. And then let's look forward. We'll walk or step our way up to the front of the mat, keeping our feet hip distance apart, coming into our ragdoll. So either holding on to opposite elbows or just letting the hands kind of sway along the floor, maybe taking a little dance from side to side. When you are ready, we will come up to standing, so slowly uncurling our way, all the way up. When we get there, reaching the hands up to the sky, nice big inhale, and exhale, hands come to the side. And again, inhaling up, and exhale, let's forward fold. Inhaling into our halfway lift, so reaching the crown of the head forward, finding our flat back. Hands come to the mat. Let's step back with our left leg. Nice big step back, coming into our low lunge. So untucking that back toe, bringing the hands just to the top of the thigh for this one. And maybe wiggling that front foot forward a little bit so we can really get into that left hip flexor. We want to get a really good stretch down the front of that left hip. So if you need to keep wiggling that left foot, that right foot forward, then please do. So breathing here. And strong through the legs here. So really pushing down with that lower half of the back leg, pushing down through that right foot. So you're kind of rising up through the ground. And then we're going to rock back on that front leg. So pulling those right toes back towards you, maybe bringing your hands down to the mat. The hands can rest on the thigh, or if you've got some blocks, that might be useful. Coming into a stretch on the back of that right leg. Slowly bringing our weight back forwards, bringing the right hand inside the right leg, wiggling the right toes out to the side. And we want our right foot at a diagonal. So coming into our lizard. So our right foot's kind of almost half on, half off the mat. Quite wide. And just finding our lizard pose. We'll be here for a couple of breaths. So you've got a couple of options. You can stay here with your hands on the mat. If you want a slightly stronger pose, we can lift up that back knee and stretch out that back leg. If you have a block, you can, or if you don't need a block, you can maybe bring your elbows, your arms, your forearms down onto the mat. All depending on your hip flexibility. So just finding whatever works for you today. Just staying in our original lizard is absolutely fine. Breathing here. And wherever you are, let's make our way back to our original position. We're going to tuck that back foot under, strong through the core, sweep that right leg round, coming straight into our downward facing dog. Taking a couple of breaths here, stretching out the legs, melting those heels down towards the earth. Just take a look at your feet. Make sure our heels are kind of hidden behind our toes, so our feet are pointing forward and hip distance apart. Look forward. Let's step up to the front of the mat. And if you are stepping, try and step all the way up to the front of the mat. Try and alternate which leg you step with each time. So if you usually step with your right, maybe try and step with your left. Halfway lift as we inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweeping all the way up to standing. And exhaling down. Inhaling, sweeping up. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift. And this time, let's step the right foot back. Nice big step back, lowering the knee down to the mat, finding your low lunge. Just bringing the knees to the thigh. Maybe rolling the shoulders back and down. And maybe wiggling that front foot a little further forward, just so we can get a really deep stretch in that right hip flexor. Again, keeping power through the legs, so really pushing down through your points of contact with the earth to kind of rise up at the same time. So you want to be lifting up out of your hips at the same time as pushing down through the earth. Always two opposing forces going on. So your legs need to be active, all of your legs. And then slowly rocking back. Bringing those left toes back towards you, trying to straighten this left leg if possible. Don't worry if the knee's a little bit bent, that's absolutely fine. Just trying to get a stretch all across, all down the back of that left leg, wherever you are. Breathing here. And then slowly walking ourselves back towards the front of the mat, wiggling that left foot out to the side. So again, just having those toes out at a diagonal, bringing your left hand inside your left leg, finding your lizard on the left side. So again, we can maybe tuck that toe and go for a bit stronger lizard by raising the back leg, or we can go into a bit of a deeper lizard by coming down onto your forearms, or maybe having some support for your hands. And remember, some days might be very different than others in poses like this. Some days you might get into a pose quite easily, other days maybe not. It's all just your body being different on different days. So always be kind to yourself. Don't push it. Just enjoy it. Okay, wherever you are, let's make our way back to the original lizard up on our hands. We'll tuck the back toe under, power up through that back leg, sweep that left leg back, up into our downward facing dog. Using this just to stretch out the legs. And then looking forward, stepping up to the front of the mat, always leading with a different leg. Halfway lift as we inhale, finding our flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweeping the arms up. And exhale, arms to the side. Inhale, let's sweep the arms up. We're going to clasp the hands above our head, pushing our palms up towards the ceiling. Just watch the shoulders haven't crept up to the ears, so pulling the shoulders back and down. And we're going to bring the arms all the way down through cactus, squeezing the shoulder blades together, clasping the hands behind us, seeing if we can straighten out the arms behind us, opening up the chest. Let's bend into the knees, forward fold, bringing the arms up and overhead. Letting the head hang heavy, releasing any tension in the neck. And then just coming up enough just to release the arms, sweeping the arms down through kind of over the mat, reaching forward into our squat, Utkatasana. Keeping the hips low, strong through the legs. And slowly let's stand up straight. We're going to bring our left leg up with us, coming into a bit of a balance, bringing that knee nice and high, reaching up with the arms. And then stepping that left foot back into our high lunge. Again, maybe wiggling that front foot forward if you need to. Finding our high lunge. Pausing here, rolling the shoulders back and down. Pivoting into our warrior two. So back foot comes parallel with the back edge of the mat. Front knee coming over the front foot. So again, opening up the hips here, squeezing the glutes together. We really want to feel like this right leg, this right knee is kind of pushing against something. So imagine you've got a force on the outside of that right knee, really opening up. Keeping the shoulders down, reaching out with the fingertips. Let's straighten up that front leg. Both legs firm and straight, really pulling up with the thighs, reaching forward with our right fingertips, and then just cartwheeling the hands down, coming into our Trikonasana. So reaching up to the sky with our left fingertips. Again, don't worry about how far you come down with this right hand. Keeping the legs strong and straight is the important thing here. Breathing. And then bringing ourselves up. Keeping the arms extended out, bringing those right toes in, so both toes are facing forward, hands come to the hips, firming up the legs again, coming into our wide-legged forward fold, Prasarita. So folding from the hips. If you do need to bend your legs at any time, that's absolutely fine. And then bringing your hands down to the floor, or any support. Remember, you can use a chair or a sofa or anything you've got there if your hands don't quite meet the floor. And once you're in your wide-legged forward fold, you might be able to just wiggle your feet out a little bit, just to come a little bit deeper into the stretch. So really keeping your legs firm and strong here, firming up the thighs, grounding down through the feet. And you might want to walk your hands a little bit back, so your hands kind of come in line with your feet, but only do so if you feel comfortable in the fold, if your hands have reached the floor quite comfortably. Okay, we're going to bend into the left leg, bringing the hands over to the left, straightening up the right leg. The right toes are going to lift, pull back towards you, coming into our Skandasana. The hands can come onto the floor to keep your balance. If you've got your balance, we can bring the hands into our prayer position. So quite an intense stretch down this inside of this right leg here, and really getting into that left hip flexor. Bringing our hands down, planting the right foot, walking our way all the way over to the other side, so bending into the right leg, bringing those left toes up towards us, engaging that left leg, so really firming up that left thigh, having the hands down on the floor if you need, or if you're okay with your balance, let's bring our hands into prayer position. Bringing the hands down. We're going to make our way back to center. This time we're going to keep our legs bent. We're going to have our feet out at angles like we did for our lizard pose, so at diagonals. And we're going to bring ourselves up into our goddess squat. So slowly lifting yourself up. Maybe adjusting a little bit, finding a nice tall spine, strong through the legs, and opening up the hips here. So again, feeling like you're pressing against something with the outer edge of your knees. Really strong pose this. Rolling the shoulders away from the ears, seeing if you can sink a little lower. Trembling is good, shaking is good. Okay, straightening up the legs, reaching up into our star. We're going to bend into the right leg. Let's cartwheel the arms over, stepping back into our plank. We'll take a vinyasa. So plank or half plank, lowering down to the mat. Inhaling into your back bend, exhaling down, and then pushing up through hands and knees or straight into your downward facing dog. Good. Breathing here. Looking forward, stepping up to the front of the mat. Halfway lift. Forward fold as we exhale, let the head hang heavy. Inhaling, reaching all the way up to the sky. Exhale, hands come down to the side. And we're going to do that all again on the left-hand side. So reaching up, clasping the hands together, reaching up to the sky, pulling the shoulders away from the ears, really working on straightening those arms. Bringing the hands down through our cactus, squeezing the shoulder blades together, squeeze, 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 all the way down. Maybe trying to clasp the hands the other way behind you. So bringing the other thumb on top. Opening up the chest. And then bending the knees, finding our forward fold. Releasing the head, releasing the neck. And then letting go of the arms, brushing them kind of forward along the mat. And then reaching forward with the hands, keeping our hips nice and low, strong through the legs. This time as we stand up straight, powering up through the left leg, bringing the right knee in towards our chest. So trying to get that right knee as high as you can. And then stepping back, finding our high lunge. Watching the shoulders haven't crept up, pulling the shoulders back and down. Pivoting into our warrior two. Making sure that front knee's over the front foot, and again, opening up these hips. So really squeezing these glute muscles behind us. Feeling that stretch on the inner thighs. Straightening up the front leg. Firming up the thighs, reaching forward with the left fingertips, coming down into our Trikonasana. Really extending up through those right fingertips, nice straight arms here, strong straight legs. Breathing. And then keeping the legs strong and straight, lifting ourselves up, using our core. Turning the left toes in, so both feet are facing the other way this time. This time we're going to bring our hands to our hips, and we're going to pull our elbows kind of towards each other behind us. So opening up the chest, squeezing those shoulder blades together. And coming into our wide-legged forward fold again, keeping those elbows squeezing towards each other. You won't be able to come down as far, but keeping the legs strong and straight this time. It really does not matter how far down you come. Releasing the hands down towards the floor. This time we'll bend into our right leg first, so coming back into our Skandasana. Pulling those left toes back towards you, finding your balance, maybe coming into our prayer position. And then bringing the hands down, or if you don't want to bring the hands down, you can try and transition over without bringing the hands down to the floor, just by slightly lifting up, bending into the other leg, and straightening out the right leg. Great for your thighs, great for your core. If you lose your balance, it's absolutely fine. Just take a breath and come back. Good. Okay, coming back through to center, keeping the legs nice and wide. We're just going to power up through the legs this time, up into our star. So reaching out, nice big inhale. And then bending into the left leg, cartwheeling down, stepping back into our plank, lowering down to the mat. Inhaling into our back bend and exhaling up into our downward facing dog. And breathing. Pushing down through the hands, pulling the shoulders away from the ears and letting the head hang heavy. So just giving the head a little nod, a little shake. And then looking forward, stepping or walking up to the front of the mat. Nice big inhale, sweeping up to the sky. And exhale into our Tadasana. Good. Coming into our balances. So bringing our feet up together or hip distance apart, doesn't really matter. We're going to come into our left leg first. So bringing up our right knee. Let's squeeze that knee in. We want the standing leg to be strong and straight. So really firming up that thigh, grounding down through all four corners of the foot. Nice and tall up through the spine, through the crown of the head. And we're going to take that right knee with our right hand, bring our left hand to our left hip. Trying not to sink into that left hip, so really rising up tall through the leg, through the torso. And then we're going to come into our tree pose. So either bringing the foot down to the floor, down to the ankle, keeping that knee pushing out. We can bring the foot to the calf. Please don't put the foot on the knee. So if it's anywhere near the knee, we either bring it above or we take it below. Wherever you are, we want to really push out. Feel like something is pressuring on that outer edge. Pushing on the outer edge of that knee. So you're really opening up the hips in your tree pose. Really squeezing the glutes together behind you. And if you have got your leg up on your upper thigh, squeeze the leg and the foot together. Loads of pressure here. Really, really strong pose on the legs. Once you have your balance wherever your foot may be, let's reach up into our full tree. Maybe just taking the gaze to a single focal point can help. Just staring at one object that isn't moving. Keeping the gaze steady. I am cheating a bit because I've got the ceiling right next to me. Terrible. Okay, letting everything go. Coming back down through to center. Good. Okay, into the other side. So, grounding down through the right foot. Planting that foot down, firm into the ground. Strong and straight in this right leg. Make that thigh the strongest it's ever been. Squeezing this left knee up into the chest. Length through the spine. Bringing your right hand to your right hip. Let's bring the left leg out. Opening up the hips. Squeezing the glutes together. So not just relying on this hand to open up the hips, really using the muscles, and then coming into our tree, whichever level of tree you are working with. So ankle, calf, or thigh. But wherever you are, the action is the same. So opening up the hips, pushing back with this left knee, keeping that right hip facing forward. So just pushing back with that left knee. You don't want that right hip to swing. So making sure our hips are aligned forward, squeezing the glutes, squeezing that foot against the thigh. Lots going on here. Once we have our balance, reaching up to the sky. Strong, strong tree. And smiling when we get there. Remember, wobbles are fine. Just take a breath and try again. Good. Okay, relaxing everything down. Oh, well done, everyone. Coming to the front of our mat, if we are not already there, we'll take a vinyasa. So inhaling up, exhaling down into our forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, let's place our hands down, take both feet back to our full plank position. Lowering down through our vinyasa, so we can either lower the knees or come through our full chaturanga, inhaling into our back bend. And then exhaling, pushing up into our downward facing dog. Okay, we're going to come into our pigeon pose here. So I want you to lift up your right leg. We're going to bring our right leg forward, bringing our right knee behind our right wrist and our left foot kind of behind our left wrist. Bit of a diagonal. And then our left leg we want straight back along the mat. Quite an intense hip stretch here. So just finding your pigeon. If you need any support underneath that right hip, then that is absolutely fine. And once we are there, you can either maybe walk your hands forward, or we can stay up like this. Just try and keep this foot kind of pointing out and away from you if you can. We don't want the foot collapsing in underneath us. And keeping the weight down in that right hip. So again, hips facing forward. Really good stretch into the back of the right hip here and along the front of this left hip. Breathing here. And really using your exhales to release. So as you breathe out, just really trying to release any tension as you breathe out. Finding a bit more space. And wherever you are, let's come, bring ourselves back up. We're going to sit down into that right hip. We're going to swing this left leg round all the way over. So our left foot is over our right knee. So coming into a little ball. And then we're going to twist round that left knee. So right hand kind of hugs that left knee in towards us. And the left hand can just come behind us. And let's try and keep this left sit bone kind of grounding down towards the floor. Breathing here. And then slowly unraveling ourselves, we're going to come out the way we came in. So just lifting up that left leg, bringing it out behind you. Hands come down to the floor in front of you. Let's push up, tuck that back toe under. Come back into our down dog, stretch out that right leg behind you, give it a bit of a shake if you need, and then place it back down on the mat. Same on the left hand side now. So let's just lift up that left leg, bringing the left knee as close to that left wrist as you can, and the left foot kind of, the left foot in line with the right hand. And then just lowering the right leg back down on the mat. We want to kind of straight, like make that right leg parallel with the mat. So we want that to be coming straight out behind us. And again, if you need some support for that left hip, just maybe grab a cushion or a throw or something. You might not need any support. And then just having a little bit of a play around with coming forward or staying upright. Just finding where it feels good for you, kind of aiming for a big stretch around the kind of back outer edge of your left hip and maybe into the front of that right hip. Breathing here. And then wherever you are, coming back. So we are on our hands, and we're just going to drop that left hip down, swing that right leg all the way around, just so it kind of comes over this left knee. And then we're going to hug that right knee in with our left hand and twist towards that leg. And with that right hip, it might come off the floor a little bit, but just try and encourage it down towards the floor. Bringing our right hand behind us just for support. So keeping our spine tall and long. And easing ourselves into our twist. Good. Okay, slowly bringing yourself back. Coming out the same way we came in. So bringing that right leg back behind us, hands come down in front. Let's tuck those right toes under, strong through the core, lifting up that left leg, stretching it out, giving it a shake. And then we'll just have a little stretch out in our downward dog. So pushing down through the hands, lifting the hips up high, melting the heels down towards the mat, just noticing how your body is feeling. And then looking forward, we're going to step through to seated. So just bringing one foot forward, then the other, through to our seated position. Good. We'll come into our Baddha Konasana. So the same leg position as we had at the very beginning of the class, but this time it's sat up. So the soles of our feet together, knees out to the side, and let's just kind of butterfly our knees for a little bit. Just working into the hips again. Lots of hip work today. And then slowly let's encourage the knees down towards the mat. Maybe opening up the feet a little bit like a book in front of you, sitting up nice and tall. Breathing here. If it's available for you to come forward, then please feel free to come forward, but trying to keep the spine tall, so not bending into the spine. If your spine is curving, let's stay upright. Good, and relaxing. Let's help our knees together with our hands, bringing our feet wide, hands behind us, windscreen wipering. And you can really kind of roll your hips from side to side here as well. Okay, shiggling ourselves forward on our mat to come through to lying. Let's have our knees bent, hands reaching forward as always, rolling ourselves down, slow and controlled, using our core, curving into our spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, inch by inch, all the way down. Until we are back on our backs. Let's squeeze the knees in. Have a little rock and roll from side to side, and then we'll find our happy baby. So reaching your arms inside your knees and to the outside of your feet, bringing the knees down towards the armpits, soles of the feet parallel with the ceiling. And then we can just have a little bit of a play around, just stretching one leg, then the other. Maybe bringing the soles of the feet together, bringing the legs together, trying to straighten out the legs maybe, bringing the legs wide. Just have a play. And when we are ready, let's just bring the legs into the air, release your hands down to the side and give the legs a shake, jelly legs. Bringing the feet down to the mat. We'll keep the legs bent for now. We'll finish off just with a couple of bridges as we did at the beginning of the class. So peeling the pelvis, peeling the spine all the way up off the mat, and find that nice stretch through the front of the body, pausing here, strong through the feet and the legs, and finding that nice stretch through the front of the hips, and then lowering down. And again, when you are ready, peeling up off the floor, nice and slowly with control, using your core, using your legs. Breathing when you get to the top, pausing. And lowering down nice and slowly. One more time, see if we can go even slower, even more controlled, all the way up to the top. Maybe lift the hips a little bit higher. Breathing, and then slowly lowering all the way down till our hips meet the floor, and then we will bring our legs out nice and wide, stretching out for our Shavasana. So bringing the hands beside us, bringing the arms quite wide from the body, palms facing up, shiggling the shoulders together behind you, so opening up the chest. And then just tucking the chin kind of down towards the chest so you get that nice length through the back of the neck. Letting the feet just flop out to the side, feeling your legs be nice and heavy. We've done lots of work in the legs and the hips today, so really releasing all that kind of lower body strength we've worked up. Letting your calves fully relax. Letting your thighs fully relax. Maybe giving your feet a little shake from side to side, and then just let your legs just kind of flop and melt down into the floor. As you exhale, feel the weight of your body really melt down. Feeling your hips be heavy, be soft, be fully supported by the floor. Letting your spine fully relax down, all the muscles in your back, all around your shoulders, the sides of your body, the front of your body. Letting your arms be heavy, fully releasing the arms, letting the hands relax, letting your fingers curl. And letting all the muscles around the tops of your shoulders, your neck, fully relax, fully soften. And letting your head be heavy. Softening around the face, all the skin around your forehead, your eyes, your cheeks, your lips. Soften and relax. Feeling yourself become heavier each time you exhale, and a little bit lighter each time you inhale. And now let's start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Time to bring the life back into the body. Bringing yourself in your own time through your pencil stretch, reaching out through the arms, through the hands, and pointing out through the toes. And then bringing your knees back into your chest, squeezing into your little ball. And then coming to rest on your side, usually onto the left-hand side, but if you want to come onto the right, that is absolutely fine. Taking a couple of deep breaths here. And then on your next inhale, let's push ourselves up, back up to our seated position. Keeping our eyes closed when we get there. Rising up nice and tall through the spine. Feeling our kind of any sensations in the hips, the legs, trying to relax them down. Let's lift our shoulders up to the ears, roll them back and down, lifting up through the crown of the head. And let's bring our hands into our prayer position, blinking open the eyes. Namaste.